Listen carefully if you have always felt different, if you have ever walked into a crowded room and felt your spirit withdraw instead of expand, if you have ever wondered why you cannot breathe in spaces where others seem to thrive, this message is for you. There is a reason your soul resists noise. There is a reason your heart grows weary around too many voices. There is a reason you feel stronger in solitude than in celebration. It is not weakness. It is not pride. It is not social failure. It is calling. The chosen ones cannot be around a lot of people because God did not design them to be shaped by the crowd. He designed them to be shaped by His presence. You must understand this deeply. When God sets someone apart, He separates before He elevates. Separation is not punishment. Separation is preparation. The chosen one is not built in the marketplace of opinions. The chosen one is built in the wilderness of intimacy with God. Crowds carry noise, but destiny requires clarity. And clarity only comes when the voice of God is louder than the voice of people. Many of you have tried to force yourself to fit in. You laughed at jokes that wounded your spirit. You entertained conversations that drained your energy. You tolerated environments that suffocated your calling. And afterward, you felt exhausted, not physically, but spiritually. That exhaustion is not random. It is the signal of a spirit that knows it does not belong to the atmosphere it is standing in. When God places a heavy calling on your life, your inner world becomes sensitive. You cannot consume what everyone consumes. You cannot celebrate what everyone celebrates. You cannot dwell where everyone dwells. The chosen one carries weight, and weight cannot be carried by those who are constantly distracted. When you are around too many people, their expectations begin to pull on you. Their fears begin to whisper into you. Their doubts begin to surround you. And if you are not careful, their limitations will begin to shape you. But God did not call you to be shaped by limitations. He called you to break them. There is a difference between being lonely and being alone. Loneliness is the absence of connection. Aloneness is the presence of God. The chosen one may walk alone, but never walks without God. In fact, what others call isolation is often divine insulation. God shields you from influences that would corrupt your focus. He removes you from circles that would dilute your conviction. He distances you from crowds that would normalize mediocrity. Understand this truth. Large groups often reward conformity, but God rewards obedience. When you are chosen, obedience matters more than acceptance. You cannot afford to live for applause. You cannot afford to shape your personality to please shifting opinions. The crowd changes daily. God does not change. The crowd celebrates you today and questions you tomorrow. God establishes you according to purpose, not popularity. Some of you have been misunderstood your entire life. People have called you distant. They have called you intense. They have called you too serious, too deep, too reserved. But what they could not see is that your spirit was listening. Listening for instruction. Listening for direction, listening for God. The chosen one is always listening, and listening requires silence. Silence cannot survive in constant noise. You cannot hear God clearly if you are always surrounded by chatter. You cannot discern divine strategy if you are constantly absorbing human emotion. Every room has a frequency. Every conversation carries a spirit. When you are chosen, your sensitivity increases. You feel tension others ignore. You sense deception others miss. You detect pride, jealousy, insecurity, distraction. And because you sense it, you are affected by it. That is why you cannot be around a lot of people. It is not arrogance. It is awareness. God often hides His strongest servants before He reveals them. Think about the pattern. Before elevation, there is concealment. Before impact, there is intimacy. God shapes giants in secret places. When you are constantly visible, you become vulnerable to unnecessary interference. Opinions interrupt development. Comparison interrupts confidence. Competition interrupts calling. The chosen one must protect their internal world. Your mind is a sacred space. Your heart is a sacred altar. Not everyone deserves access. When you allow too many people into your space, you risk contamination, and contamination is subtle. It does not announce itself. It enters through small compromises, small agreements, small tolerances. You start adjusting your convictions to maintain harmony. You start lowering your standards to avoid tension. You start silencing your truth to stay included. And slowly the fire God placed inside you begins to dim. But God did not call you to dim your fire so others can feel comfortable. He called you to burn so brightly that darkness retreats. The chosen one is not antisocial. The chosen one is purposeful. There is a difference. You are not avoiding people because you dislike them. You are guarding your assignment because you respect it. There are seasons when God will send people to support you. But even in those seasons, your strength will not come from the crowd. It will come from communion with God. You must stop apologizing for your need for space. You must stop explaining your silence. You must stop defending your boundaries. The crowd does not understand what it has never carried. If they have not felt the weight of calling, they will not understand the discipline it requires. When God entrusts you with vision, you cannot treat your life casually. Too many voices create confusion, and confusion is the enemy of execution. When 10 people speak into your destiny, you begin to hesitate. But when God speaks, clarity comes with authority. The chosen one must learn to value one divine instruction over 1,000 human suggestions. Some of you are exhausted because you are fighting your design. You keep forcing yourself into social environments that drain your spirit because you fear being labeled different, but you are different, and that difference is intentional. God does not mass produce impact. He crafts it uniquely. Your solitude is not a flaw, it is a workshop. In solitude, you confront yourself. In crowds, you can hide behind personality. Alone, you must face your fears. Alone, you must wrestle with doubt. Alone, you must surrender pride. And in that surrender, God refines you. Refinement is uncomfortable. It requires exposure. It requires honesty. And honesty thrives in quiet places. The chosen one cannot be around a lot of people because their energy is strategic. Every interaction costs something. Every conversation transfers something. When you carry purpose, you cannot afford constant leakage. You must be selective. You must discern when to speak and when to withdraw. You must know when to engage and when to retreat. There are battles that are won publicly, but there are wars that are won privately. Your greatest victories will not happen in front of applause. They will happen on your knees, in tears, in silence, in surrender to God. That posture cannot be maintained if you are addicted to constant company. Look at your life closely. The moments of greatest clarity likely came when you were alone. The decisions that changed your direction likely came in silence. The breakthroughs that strengthened your faith likely came in isolation. That is not coincidence. That is pattern. God meets deeply with those who create space for Him. When you are around too many people, comparison becomes inevitable. You measure progress. You measure status. You measure success, and comparison steals gratitude, it steals focus, it steals identity. The chosen one must know who they are without external validation. Identity must be rooted in God, not in reaction. Crowds can amplify insecurity, they can amplify ego, they can amplify distraction. But solitude amplifies truth, and truth is necessary for transformation. If you are called to lead, you must first learn to stand alone. Leadership is not sustained by popularity. It is sustained by conviction. Conviction is forged in solitude. It is strengthened in prayer. It is sharpened by obedience. You cannot build unshakable conviction while constantly adapting to group dynamics. The chosen one must become stable in private before becoming influential in public. There are some friendships that are seasonal. There are some associations that are temporary. Not every connection is destiny. And when you are chosen, you must discern between companionship and calling. Sometimes God will remove people from your life, not because they are evil, but because they are incompatible with your next level. Growth requires pruning, and pruning feels like loss, but pruning produces strength. The chosen one often experiences relational reduction before spiritual expansion. Fewer voices, fewer distractions, fewer attachments, more focus, more discipline, more intimacy with God. Do not misunderstand this message. This is not a call to hatred or arrogance. It is a call to awareness. You can love people deeply without living constantly among them. You can serve people powerfully without being controlled by them. You can influence crowds without being defined by them. The chosen one must master the art of withdrawal, not escape withdrawal. There is a difference. Escape is fear-driven. Withdrawal is wisdom-driven. Escape runs from responsibility. Withdrawal protects responsibility. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is stepping back. When God gives you vision, it is fragile at first. It must be protected like a seed. Seeds do not grow in storms of opinion. They grow in guarded soil. If you expose your developing vision to too many critics, it will wither. If you expose it to too many doubters, it will weaken. God! What God is growing inside you, people will not always understand your silence. They will interpret it through their own insecurity. But you cannot let misunderstanding control your obedience. You answer to God. And when He calls you to be still, you must be still even if the world calls you distant. The chosen one is often emotionally deep. You think deeply, you feel deeply, you process deeply, and depth requires space. Surface level conversations do not satisfy you. You crave meaning. You crave truth. Crave alignment. That craving is not superiority, it is spiritual hunger. God feeds hunger, but He does not force feed distraction. If you constantly surround yourself with shallow interactions, you starve your spirit. And the starving spirit cannot carry heavy purpose. There is power in being misunderstood. It forces you to anchor in God. When applause disappears, when validation fades, when companionship shifts, you discover whether your faith is real. The chosen one must learn to be steady when alone and humble when seen. Many of you are in a season where God is reducing your circle. You feel it. Invitations decrease. Conversations change. Connections fade. Do not panic. This is alignment. God is adjusting your environment to match your destiny. You cannot carry the next level with the same attachments. The higher you go, the narrower the path becomes. Not because people are evil, but because focus becomes sharper. Responsibility becomes heavier. Influence becomes wider. And to manage that weight, your inner world must be disciplined. You cannot be spiritually sharp if you are constantly socially saturated. You cannot be divinely directed if you are constantly humanly influenced. There must be boundaries. There must be rhythm. There must be intentional solitude. Some of you fear being alone because silence reveals wounds. But God heals in the quiet. He restores in the stillness. He corrects in the calm. If you avoid solitude, you avoid healing. And if you avoid healing, you sabotage destiny. The chosen one understands that their life is not random. It is assigned. Every test carries purpose. Every delay carries instruction. Every separation carries refinement. And refinement requires fire. Fire requires focus. Focus requires distance from chaos. Stop measuring your life by how many people surround you. Measure it by how closely you walk with God. Popularity is unstable. Presence is sustaining. If you have God, you have enough to move mountains. If you have crowds without God, you have noise without direction. There is a reason you feel stronger after prayer. There is a reason you feel clearer after solitude. There is a reason your creativity increases when you are alone. You are designed to draw from God before you pour into people. The chosen one cannot be around a lot of people because they are called to influence many, not imitate many. Influence requires originality, and originality is preserved in separation. When you spend too much time absorbing others, you begin to lose your distinct sound. God gave you a specific assignment, a specific voice, a specific impact. If you dilute it with constant comparison and social pressure, you will compromise effectiveness. Protect your mornings, protect your thoughts, protect your environment. Not everyone who wants access deserves it. Access is privilege. And when you are chosen, your time becomes sacred currency. You will notice something powerful. The more you honor solitude with God, the less you crave approval from people, the less you chase attention, the less you fear rejection, because your identity becomes anchored in something eternal. The chosen one is often called to stand against the current. Crowds flow with comfort. Destiny flows with courage. If you always need agreement, you will never pioneer anything new. And pioneers walk paths others have not yet validated. God trains pioneers in isolation. He strengthens their resolve. He clarifies their vision. He deepens their dependence. So when they finally step into public influence, they are not moved by praise or shaken by criticism. You must embrace this truth. You are not designed to be accessible to everyone. You are designed to be obedient to God. That obedience may require saying no. It may require declining invitations. It may require long periods of invisibility. Invisibility is not insignificance. It is incubation. God is preparing you for something that requires internal strength greater than external noise. Some of you are about to step into seasons where your impact expands. And if you do not master solitude now, expansion will overwhelm you. Crowds can consume leaders who are internally unprepared, but those rooted in God remain steady. You do not need a large circle to confirm your worth. You need alignment with God to fulfill your purpose. When alignment is correct, the right connections will come, not many right. Quality over quantity, depth over display, purpose over popularity, intimacy with God over constant interaction with people, You are not strange for craving quiet. You are not weak for needing space. You are not called for setting boundaries. You are called, and when you fully accept that calling, you will stop fighting your design and start honoring it. You will withdraw when necessary without guilt. You will engage when directed without fear. You will speak when prompted and remain silent when instructed. The chosen one walks differently because they listen differently. And they listen differently because they value the voice of God above all others. If you have felt isolated, consider the possibility that you are being positioned. If you have felt separated, consider the possibility that you are being strengthened. If you have felt alone, consider the possibility that you are being led into deeper communion. There is a future attached to your obedience. There is impact attached to your discipline. There is influence attached to your intimacy with God. So do not resent your solitude, respect it. Do not fear your separation, embrace it. Do not chase crowds to silence your insecurity. Chase God to strengthen your identity. Because at the end of it all, it will not be the size of your circle that defines your life. It will be the depth of your obedience. And the chosen one understands that true strength is not found in being surrounded by many voices, but in being surrendered to the one voice that matters, the voice of God that calls you higher, sets you apart and walks with you in the sacred spaces where destiny is formed and character is forged and purpose is awakened within the quiet chambers of a heart fully devoted to Him. And there is something even deeper that you must understand about why the chosen ones cannot be around a lot of people. It is because influence flows both ways. Many believe they are strong enough to stand in any environment and remain unchanged, but even the strongest spirit absorbs what it consistently surrounds itself with. Atmosphere is not neutral. Every room carries a current. Every circle carries a direction. If you stay long enough in a space that contradicts your calling, you will begin to feel internal resistance. That resistance is not weakness, it's the spirit within you refusing contamination. God does not separate you because He wants you disconnected from humanity. He separates you because He wants you deeply connected to Him. There is a difference between social closeness and spiritual alignment. You can sit among many people and still feel distant because your spirit is tuned to a different frequency. The chosen one is tuned to obedience. The chosen one is tuned to discernment. The chosen one is tuned to purpose. And when purpose is heavy, distraction becomes dangerous. Some of you have been called too quiet because you refuse to participate in shallow conversations. You have been labeled withdrawn because you refuse to laugh at what dishonors your spirit. You have been misunderstood because you do not crave constant attention. But what they do not understand is that you are guarding oil, you are guarding vision, you are guarding revelation. When God places oil on your life, you must protect it from spillage. You cannot pour yourself into every setting. You cannot empty yourself for every opinion. Oil is sacred, and sacred things require boundaries. There are battles happening in unseen realms over your focus. Distraction is not random. It is strategic. The more significant your calling, the more intense the attempts to dilute it. Sometimes dilution does not come through obvious evil, it comes through constant engagement, constant conversation, constant social pressure, constant comparison. The enemy of your destiny does not always attack you directly. Sometimes it just surrounds you with noise until you forget what God said. This is why silence is powerful. Silence allows you to hear again. Silence allows you to remember. Silence allows you to reset. When you withdraw from the crowd, you are not retreating from life, you are recalibrating your spirit. You are aligning your thoughts with divine direction. You are letting God clean the dust of human influence from your heart. There is a sacred tension in being chosen. You love people deeply, yet you cannot live fully immersed in them. You care for humanity, yet you crave solitude. This tension is not contradiction, it is calling. God shapes leaders differently. He stretches them in private before displaying them in public. He deepens their roots before expanding their branches. Roots do not grow in crowds. They grow underground, unseen, untouched by applause. You must learn to become comfortable with being unseen. The crowd rewards visibility, but God rewards faithfulness. The crowd measures impact by numbers. God measures impact by obedience, and obedience often requires saying no to environments that feel popular but are spiritually empty. There are seasons when your circle will shrink dramatically. It will feel as though God is stripping away familiar faces. Conversations will decrease. Invitations will fade. People you once connected with will drift. Do not interpret this as abandonment. Interpret it as alignment. When God is about to elevate your responsibility, He reduces your distractions. When He is about to expand your reach, He tightens your circle. Understand this clearly. The chosen one is not called to isolation forever, but they are called to seasons of consecration. Consecration means being set apart. It means being intentional. It means saying, God, I will not allow anything to interfere with what you are building inside me. Consecration requires sacrifice. It may cost you social comfort. It may cost you constant companionship, but it will never cost you purpose. In fact, it will protect it. You cannot carry divine vision and remain constantly available. Availability without discernment leads to exhaustion, and exhaustion leads to vulnerability. When you are drained, you make compromises you would never make when strong. That is why you must guard your energy, not selfishly but strategically. Every time you step into an environment, ask yourself, does this align with what God is cultivating in me? Does this strengthen my discipline or weaken it? Does this increase clarity or introduce confusion? The chosen one feels crowded even in small groups when the conversation lacks depth. You are not wired for surface interactions. Your spirit longs for substance. You think about legacy while others think about entertainment. You think about obedience while others think about approval. You think about purpose while others think about popularity. And because your mind operates on a different level, constant exposure to superficiality becomes draining. God often removes chosen ones from environments where compromise is normalized. Not because He wants you judgmental, but because He wants you pure. Purity is not about superiority, it's about focus. When your vision is pure, your direction is sharp. When your direction is sharp, your movement is decisive. But when your vision becomes blurred by too many external influences, hesitation enters. And hesitation delays destiny. You must recognize that not everyone can go where you are going. Some people are assigned to specific seasons of your life. When that season ends, forcing the connection will create friction. Friction drains strength, and you cannot afford unnecessary drains when you are called to build something greater than yourself. There are moments when God will intentionally allow you to feel alone so you can discover that He is sufficient. If you are constantly surrounded by people, you may confuse human support with divine strength. But when you stand alone and still remain steady, you realize that your foundation is not in people, it is in God. And once that foundation is established, no rejection can shake you. The chosen one must learn emotional independence, not detachment, but stability. When your mood depends on how many people affirm you, you are vulnerable. But when your peace is rooted in communion with God, you are unshakable. You can walk into rooms without needing approval. You can walk out without feeling diminished. You can serve without needing recognition. You can withdraw without guilt. Do not underestimate the power of divine solitude. In solitude, God confronts your ego. He exposes your hidden fears. He strengthens your weaknesses. He refines your motives. When you are constantly among people, you can perform. But when you are alone, you are authentic. And authenticity is the soil where true transformation grows. Some of you fear that reducing your social circle will limit your opportunities. But understand this, God is not dependent on crowds to fulfill His promises. He can elevate you from obscurity. He can connect you with destiny helpers at the exact right moment. He can open doors that no crowd could manufacture. Your responsibility is obedience. His responsibility is outcome. There is also a prophetic dimension to separation. When God sets you apart, it signals that He is preparing you for influence beyond what you currently see. Influence requires discipline. Discipline requires boundaries. Boundaries require courage. You must be courageous enough to disappoint people in order to obey God. You must be courageous enough to decline invitations that feel good but are not aligned. You must be courageous enough to choose growth over comfort. The chosen one often feels a sense of spiritual homesickness in crowded environments. You smile outwardly, but inwardly you long for quiet. That longing is not social dysfunction, it is spiritual awareness. Your spirit knows where it thrives, and it thrives in the presence of God. Do not fight your wiring. Do not force yourself into constant interaction to prove that you are normal. Your calling is not normal. Your sensitivity is not normal. Your hunger is not normal. And that is exactly why God entrusted you with it. There is a strength that develops when you become comfortable with your own company, when you no longer need noise to feel secure. When you no longer need constant updates to feel connected. When you can sit in silence and feel full instead of empty. That fullness comes from knowing that God is near. It comes from knowing that you are not abandoned. It comes from knowing that your solitude has purpose. Many people avoid solitude because it reveals unresolved issues. But the chosen one must face those issues. If God is going to use you to influence others, your internal world must be healed. You cannot lead effectively while internally fragmented. You cannot speak with authority while privately insecure. So God allows seasons where you and Him walk closely, where conversations are deep, where conviction is sharpened, where identity is clarified. You must also understand that crowds amplify pressure. When many eyes are watching, performance increases, but performance is not purpose. Purpose flows from authenticity. If you constantly perform to maintain image, you will slowly disconnect from your true assignment. The chosen one cannot afford to leave behind a mask. God sees beyond the mask. And He refines what He sees. When you withdraw from excessive social interaction, you create space for creativity. You create space for innovation. You create space for divine ideas to form. Ideas require incubation. Incubation requires quiet. Some of the greatest strategies for your future will not come in meetings, they will come in moments of stillness when God whispers direction into your spirit. Do not mistake your need for solitude as antisocial behavior. It is stewardship. You are stewarding vision. You are stewarding emotional health. You are stewarding spiritual clarity. Stewardship sometimes looks like separation. And here is another truth. The chosen one often intimidates insecure spirits. Your discipline convicts them. Your boundaries challenge them. Your depth exposes their superficiality. And instead of rising to meet your level, some will attempt to pull you down. This is why you cannot be around too many people. Not because they are all malicious, but because not all are aligned. Alignment is rare, and rarity is valuable. Do not scatter yourself where there is no alignment. Do not waste your energy proving yourself to people who cannot perceive your calling. If God has confirmed your path, that confirmation is enough. You will also notice that when you spend too much time around people who do not share your hunger for growth, your momentum slows. It becomes harder to wake up early, harder to pray deeply, harder to stay disciplined. That is not coincidence. Association influences acceleration. If you want to maintain spiritual speed, you must be intentional about your environment. The chosen one must develop the strength to walk away, not angrily, not bitterly, but confidently. Walk away from conversations that drain you. Walk away from patterns that weaken you. Walk away from circles that celebrate compromise. Walk away when God signals that it is time. And when you walk away, trust that what is ahead is greater than what is behind. Trust that the reduction you experience now is preparing you for expansion later. Trust that every quiet season carries unseen preparation. You are not meant to blend in. You are meant to stand out not through noise, but through conviction, not through popularity, but through purity, not through numbers, but through obedience. Let the crowd chase validation. You chase God. Let the crowd chase applause. You chase alignment. Let the crowd chase trends. You chase truth. Because in the end, when your life is measured, it will not be measured by how many people surrounded you. It will be measured by how faithfully you guarded what God entrusted to you. It will be measured by how boldly you obeyed when obedience required separation. It will be measured by how deeply you cultivated intimacy when others pursued attention. And as you continue walking this path of being set apart, remember that the one who called you into solitude is the same one who will sustain you through it. He is your strength when silence feels heavy. He is your clarity when confusion tries to enter. He is your comfort when companionship fades. He is your direction when the path narrows. So embrace the narrowing. Embrace the quiet, embrace the sacred distance, because in that distance your character is being fortified. In that quiet your spirit is being strengthened. In that separation your destiny is being secured by the hand of God, who sees what others cannot see, who prepares what others cannot imagine, and who walks with you faithfully in every season where you stand apart, set aside, and strategically positioned for a purpose that requires depth, discipline, and unwavering devotion to Him alone. So now you understand. Your distance was never dysfunction. Your silence was never weakness. Your reduced circle was never failure. It was formation. It was protection. It was divine strategy unfolding quietly in places where applause could not interrupt it. You were never meant to be sustained by constant company. You were meant to be sustained by communion with God. And the very thing that once made you question yourself, your need for space, your craving for depth, your discomfort in crowded environments is the evidence that you carry something sacred. God does not allow what is ordinary to feel the weight of separation. He separates what He intends to elevate. He isolates what He intends to intensify. He sets apart what He intends to use. Stop apologizing for your boundaries. Stop shrinking to fit spaces that suffocate your spirit. Stop confusing solitude with rejection. When God reduces noise around you, He is increasing clarity within you. When He narrows your path, He is sharpening your focus. When He allows you to stand alone, He is teaching you that His presence is enough. The chosen one is not defined by numbers, not by followers, not by invitations, not by constant validation. The chosen one is defined by obedience, defined by discipline, defined by unwavering devotion to God when no one is watching. And that devotion is forged in quiet seasons. One day, the strength you built in solitude will become visible. The clarity you cultivated in silence will guide others. The resilience you developed, away from the crowd, will carry you through storms that would have broken you before. And when that day comes, you will not be moved by praise or shaken by criticism, because your foundation will not be built on people, it will be built on God. So embrace the set-apart life. Walk confidently in sacred distance. Guard your spirit fiercely. Protect your focus relentlessly. Honor your calling boldly, because the one who chose you knew exactly what He was doing when He made you different. He knew the weight you would carry. He knew the battles you would face. He knew the heights you would reach. And He decided that before you could stand before many, you must first learn to stand alone with Him.